Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around, we are doing a bit of Empire against Averlorn, and I know Empire was requested, so I decided to try and give it a go. I haven't really played Empire much lately, and I realized I was looking over my replays, and I'm like, dang, I don't really have Empire replays. So I hopped into the match and ended up here against Elder Basilisk, who's a pretty common form user on the main forms, and I thought, we'll roll with Empire and see what we can do. So, going in against Averlorn, I was very wary, of course, of Alariel, as well as her combos with Dragon Princess and Phoenix Guard, so I figured, we'll do a comp based around cannons and artillery, so that no matter what, she can't heal them once they've took a cannonball to the face. So as the core of the build here, we do have Karl Franz, good old KF, the best of the best. Look at him, majestic here, even on his normal horse. And of course, we'd have kitted him out in full. He's got Hold the Line, he's got Foe Seeker, he's got Stand Your Ground, Reichland Runefang, as well as Gall Miraz. So basically bringing the full kit here to either snipe models if needed, to knock down some Dragon Princes, or otherwise to beat down Lords, beat down Infantry, whatever, he can do it all. And of course, he does have AP on his horse. He's backed by the Royal of Griffites, who are, of course, a very solid choice. They won't win against... usually, if you go head-to-head with an Alariel-backed Fireborn, they'll definitely struggle to win despite their AP, because they will start getting exhausted, and the Fireborn at that point can kind of get an edge, because they've got a physical resist that the Griffites just don't have, and of course Alariel just heals them so much. But I figured that with the backing of my own Jade Wizard, we should definitely be able to outtrade them, and of course Karl. The Jade Wizard here is providing quite a mix. He's got Earthblood and Regrowth, and I wanted to sort of theory craft to test something out, so I brought Flesh to Stone. It's pretty expensive spell for 7 wins of magic, but for 44 seconds you get plus 60 armor, and I figured this could be really useful if I need to make my my cavalry last a little longer in close quarters against Dragon Princes, because of course they don't have much AP damage, and if you boost these guys up, their armor's suddenly up to 185, which is pretty ridiculous. Otherwise, not much to say there. He has a Power Stone, that's about it. For the rest of the comp, 3 artillery pieces, 2 cannons, as well as the Hammer of the Witches. In retrospect, perhaps Hammer of the Witches was not the brightest idea, because it is more expensive, but nonetheless, we did go with a lot of artillery, and you can see we spaced them out quite a bit, so if my opponent managed to get any cavalry in from whatever angle, our artillery can pivot around and support them. Of course, cannons unfortunately are not going to perform all that well here, because my opponent decided to go with a very infantry-heavy, very wide composition, and that's not really what I was expecting. There are also 2 units of Empire Knights, cheap, lower-end heavy cav. Honestly, this is another part of the reason why I think Hammer Witches might have been a mistake, just because if I had a normal cannon here, which would have been good enough for Dragon Princes, it would have left me with enough money to upgrade one of these guys to Reichsguard. Then the front line here, 4 swordsmen as well as the Sigmar Sons, and for some point defense we do have the Silver Bullets. And you can see my opponent did go with quite a bit of light cav, so he's got normal Illyrian Reavers over here, and the 2 Illyrian Reaver archers over here, who are going to start immediately poking away at me and being a bit of a nuisance. For his main force, he has brought quite a mixed bag. He's got some front line of spearmen here, so these guys basically they're just soak up missiles to provide a bit of anti-large and zoning and all that sort of stuff. 2 dryads to provide some cheaper anti-infantry. These guys will do very well against state troops, and they are backed by 2 swordmasters of Hoeth, who of course will mince their way through any Empire infantry in a matter of seconds, even great swords. Loth and Seaguard are here in the back, providing a bit of additional coverage against large, shielding these archers with light armor as well as these Sisters of Averlorn, with a fine line of spears in the very back. And Alariel the Radiant has made it to the field. You can see her here with False Protection, Earthblood, Star of Averlorn, and Arcane Conduit, and the Shieldstone of Isha, though it does not look like she has an ability that reduces her wins of magic cost for Earthblood even further, so I think it's going to cost her 5 wins of magic rather than 4. But you can see immediately what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zone my opponent out with my swordsmen, and push my Silver Bullets into position to start whittling down these Illyrian Reavers. I'm using my Empire Knights to zone them away as well, and my opponent is going to start whittling away at my Silver Bullets. So rather than allowing him to snipe my Silver Bullets down with 2 Illyrian Reavers, we are going to hit them with a Flesh to Stone, and that is going to give them 80 armor, which means that the Illyrian Reaver archers are just not going to cut the mustard here. These Silver Bullets are going to be able to exchange and trade fire. Had I hit these guys with an Earthblood, I would probably still be losing models. Thanks to this, my opponent's going to shift fire to my Great Cannon, which is less important in this matchup, in my opinion, than the Silver Bullets. In the meantime, the cannons have kind of separated their fire. One cannon is working on these Loth and Seaguard, but then shifts fire to the Swordmasters. Over here, these Swordmasters are the target of our hate, but from this Hammer of the Witches, but the Sister of Averlorn are taking quite a bit of collateral, because the way my opponent's formation here is kind of boxed up and staggered out, cannons can often land multiple hits on units. And you can see these Swordmasters of Hoeth already dropping very low, and of course these models are not going to be coming back, unlike, say, models for if there was normal damage. These guys quite possibly just get healed back up. So you can see we are forming a bit of a concave, pivoting some swordsmen over, keeping our infantry here, and then using Carl to sort of zone my opponent out, try to screen out these Lear archers, and you can see a cannonball just taking a lot of them in the flank and just destroying them. And of course this infantry force is relatively slow, so they're going to struggle a little bit, and I think my opponent there hesitated a little bit to get an Earthblood off. Definitely probably not a bad idea, because these guys are not coming back. Earthblood wouldn't really help. Now the engagement is going to start off in earnest. You can see the swordsmen diving into melee. Over here they were whittled down quite a bit, so they're not going to do quite as well. The swordsmen will in fact defeat high elf spears in a protracted engagement. They're actually a very, very competitive unit against these sort of spear units. I'm actually not even sure. They might even beat bleak swords in a straight up fight, though I could be wrong there. Obviously with murderous prowess that might change, but I think they might actually beat them. Unfortunately these great cannons are not going to last very long, but everywhere the battle's kind of kicked off. You can see the swordsmen engaging the Dryads, trading relatively efficiently, and the Sigmar Sons of course will dumpster these spears. We're going to push some of our Empire Knights here to do some damage, and Carl is going to dive into these Swordmasters who are in a bit of a bad spot. You can see the Swordmasters kind of getting snagged here on this unit of swordsmen, and because of that they're not going to be able to push through. They're not going to be able to really flank around. They're not able to get their full model count on the targets they need to, and suddenly in come the Royal Deliverance. Certainly these guys are not meant to destroy infantry, but despite the Earthblood, these guys do have AP. They are going to be back here by the Reichman Runefang. They've got Splash. Carl Franz is in there just laying the smackdown on these guys, really whooping them, and you can see the Swordmasters of Hoeth are basically dead already, and before this battle even started, they're basically goners. In the meantime, the cannons are going to continue pounding away. One gun battery is completely offline, but it just really doesn't matter. Our Empire Knights here are sort of piling past, the spears sneaking past, trying to get into these sisters. Unfortunately, a few models there getting snared and distracted. But in the meantime, Carl has, with the help of the Royal Griffiths, busted these Swordmasters of Hoeth. The swordsmen here have managed to bust these Dryads once again without support, and we are just pouring through the gap here, shooting the gap and pushing into these sisters, and you can see a volley there of handgun fire just scything through them. In the meantime, poor Ilariel the Radiant, who has been being pressured by the constant pounding from the artillery pieces, really just having a miserable time of it, is in full retreat, getting pursued by Carl, and of course being mounted on a bartered horse. This is something I really don't recommend. Don't bring her on a bartered warhorse. That's my professional tip of the day. Don't bring Ilariel on a horse, but she is in full retreat here, fleeing from a very angry Carl and really not able to escape. If we take a quick overarching look, you can see over here these Empire Knights just kind of running amok, only on 18 kills, really nothing too spectacular, but they've been mucking my opponent up, and that's really what matters. They can get a nice meaty charge here on the back of these spearmen, taking advantage of that stellar charge bonus of 48, which honestly isn't all that stellar, but let's pretend it is. And the cannons, you know, they keep firing, and Ilariel does get gooned out over there by Carl, so at this point it's basically the game. It's going to be a complete army loss shatter for the High Elves, and definitely the build, despite going up against what is essentially a counter build, maybe not a direct counter build, but a reasonable counter, managed to work out. So the choice of elite infantry, the Swordmasters of Hoeth, I think are a bit of a mistake. I think you'd be better off bringing more Sisters of Avalorn, personally. Maybe an extra sister and get more spears. Just because the AP, I think, is worthwhile. I also think the lack of a proper heavy cav here was a serious issue. My opponent didn't really have the flexible counters to shut down the Knights. Certainly the Knights weren't racking up like a bajillion kills, but they were doing a good enough job of harassing that backline. And if we look at the losses, you know, my opponent only lost about half his army before he suffered army losses, but the most critical portions of the army were just whittled down so brutally by the cannons. You can see 38, 41, 41. Those kills were going into valuable units. It was going to Loth and Seaguard at first, but then into Swordmasters of Hoeth, into the Sisters of Avalorn, and these are very expensive units. These cannons probably easily paid for themselves, and they were then whittled down to Ilariel, making her life absolutely miserable. Silver Bullets did a good job. I definitely found that the Flesh to Stone was very useful in just keeping the Silver Bullets in a fight in a situation where they shouldn't have been really engaging, or whether they would have struggled otherwise. Two Legion Reavers pounding away on Silver Bullets will usually just level them rather quickly. You're going to lose essentially because you are outnumbered. You definitely don't have as much HP per model. And so you're going to lose that engagement normally, but with the help of that Flesh to Stone, with a little bit of cannon help, and with a little bit of zoning help from the Empire Knights, we were definitely able to work them down, and I think that was pretty cool to see, and definitely pretty cool to try out. Swordsmen, you know, they trade well with spears. Definitely, I think the Empire has a bit of an edge in this matchup in the infantry. I think Empire actually might have an edge in this matchup, period. Ilariel plus Fireborn, or Ilariel plus Dragon Princess, or Techless plus Nobles and Dragon Princes, that can give you some serious issues as Empire, but otherwise your infantry will generally outtrade the cheaper spears. If your opponent goes more elite, you can often just ride them down with your cavalry or your artillery. Your opponent has to be very wary of Empire artillery. It's just so brutal, and you saw what it did here to these Swordmasters, who only racked up 5 kills between them, which for a unit that you invest 1,200 in is just really, really bad. And I do think the Empire might have a little bit of an edge, definitely, unless your opponent essentially runs with an Ilariel or Techless centered kind of gimmicky build, essentially, relying on some serious heavy cav, and tries to contest you in the heavy cav game. That's just my 2 cents. And if you guys disagree, be sure to mention it down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think, or if you think this might be even or favorable to the High Elves, be sure to let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. I also do find Carl to be rather useful in this matchup, because I like bringing a Lore of Life anyway in this matchup, just because you really, in my opinion, you do need something to go tit for tat or toe-to-toe with Alariel or Teclis. Elves have very strong healing. So you're probably going to be bringing the healer anyway. It's not like with Boris where you bring him to heal and so that then you can bring a non-healing caster. And in that case, I figure, might as well go for Carl. Carl's got all these buffs. He can quickly deliver some burst. He can do well against any target. Boris is a little bit lacking in some ways, so in a straight combat sense. Regardless, good game to Elder Basilisk here. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it entertaining and fun. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below to keep up with additional content. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions about the composition, anything like that, don't hesitate to ask. If you have any requests, as usual, be sure to leave me a message down below, and I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. So I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.